Dylan never imagined that one ordinary Thursday would change the course of his entire life. He'd flown back early from a work trip, eager to surprise Diana with their favorite pasta and candlelight dinner for their anniversary. A bouquet of tulips, the one she always said reminded her of spring, rested in his hand as he quietly turned the key and stepped into the house. The lights were off, but the soft hum of music and an unfamiliar rhythm echoed upstairs. At first, he thought nothing of it. Then came the moans. Sharp, repetitive, undeniable. His heart dropped. Dylan took the stairs slowly, his mind refusing to connect the dots. But the moment he opened the bedroom door, the illusion of their marriage shattered like glass. There she was, Diana, wrapped around a man he'd never seen before. The stranger didn't even look guilty. Diana gasped, clutching the sheet, wide-eyed like she was the one betrayed. Dylan just stood there, frozen tulips still in hand. It wasn't rage that hit him, it was grief. Deep, hollow, unbearable grief. The kind that sinks into your bones. That night, he lost more than a partner. He lost the version of life he thought was real, and there was no going back. Dylan stood motionless, still gripping the now-crushed tulips in one hand as Diana reached for her phone with trembling fingers. For a second, he thought she might call the man back, or maybe her sister, someone who could explain away the mess. But what she did next left him stunned beyond words. She dialed 911. My husband just came home. He's threatening me, she said, voice shaking, eyes flicking toward Dylan like she was staring down a wild animal. The room spun. His heart didn't just break, it ruptured. Are you serious? He whispered, stepping back. He hadn't even moved toward her. He hadn't shouted, but she was performing like she'd rehearsed the part. He's yelling. He's got me cornered, she continued, tears beginning to form as she backed herself against the headboard. It was surreal. In that moment, Dylan realized this wasn't panic. It was strategy. A desperate, cruel attempt to flip the story. To turn him from wounded husband to dangerous man. Every second felt like a betrayal layered atop betrayal. She wasn't just cheating. She was willing to let the law believe he was violent, unstable. And if she succeeded, she could destroy his life, his job, his reputation, everything he'd worked so hard to build. Dylan didn't shout. He didn't beg. He just walked out of the room in stunned silence, not knowing whether to cry or scream. One thing was clear, though, this was no longer just an affair. It was war, and she had fired the first shot. Downstairs, Dylan sat on the edge of the couch, hands limp in his lap, staring at nothing as the world around him blurred into white noise. The police arrived quickly, 2 officers, professional but cautious. They separated the couple immediately, one guiding Dylan to the kitchen with the calm detachment of someone used to chaos. Mind telling me what happened? The officer asked. Dylan recounted everything. The early flight home, the sounds upstairs, the discovery, the false 911 call. No yelling, no threats, no violence, just heartbreak. The officer nodded, scribbling notes, but Dylan could sense the doubt, the invisible weight of suspicion pressing against him. It struck him like a jolt, the cameras. 2 years ago, after a break-in, he had installed security cameras. One in the upstairs hallway, one in the living room. Without a word, he pulled out his phone and opened the security app, fingers trembling as he navigated to the footage. And there it was in quiet, damning clarity, Dylan walking through the door, going upstairs. Moments later, the other man rushing out, shirtless, panicked. Then Dylan again, descending the stairs, calm, composed, shattered. No shouting, no confrontation, just silence and grief. The officers watched in silence, replaying the footage. Their demeanor shifted, no longer skeptical, but serious. Upstairs, Diana's narrative was unraveling. The evidence had turned. The story she had tried to script was falling apart, undone by the quiet eye of camera. In that moment, Dylan didn't feel triumphant. He just felt empty. But at least, finally he was believed. Later that evening, after what felt like hours of interrogation and doubt, the officers requested access to older footage. Diana, now aware her performance had been exposed, stood silently as Officer Monroe scrolled through days, weeks of clips. What they found wasn't dramatic or scandalous. It was the mundane heartbeat of a marriage Dylan had thought was real. Him coming home late from work, her reading on the couch, shared dinners, light conversations in the kitchen. No signs of rage, no controlling behavior, just this slow dance of routine, comfortable and steady. But then came something none of them expected. A clip from a few nights earlier, barely a minute long, caught Diana in their bedroom, alone, standing before the mirror. She wasn't brushing her hair or adjusting her clothes. She was rehearsing, whispering to herself, her tone trembling on cue, mimicking fear as if she were preparing for a role in a play. "You're scaring me. Please don't," she murmured to her reflection, perfecting the lines. The room fell silent as the video played. Even the officers looked shaken. Dylan stared at the screen, mouth dry. This wasn't panic. This was preparation. The false accusation hadn't been a spur-of-the-moment decision. It had been scripted. That realization hit harder than the affair. She hadn't just betrayed him with another man. She had crafted a lie to destroy him, if she ever got caught. In that moment, something inside Dylan cracked, not from heartbreak, but from the cold horror of knowing just how far she'd planned to fall. A week passed before the letter arrived. No warning, no return address. Just a plain envelope left at the front desk of the extended stay hotel Dylan now called home. He almost tossed it, thinking it was more junk, another anonymous pity note. But the handwriting stopped him, neat, deliberate, unfamiliar. Inside a folded page, the words began, "My name is Hudson Blake, and I need to say something." Dylan sat down as the room around him faded away. Hudson, the man he'd found with Diana that night, wasn't just a stranger after all. He was the divorced father of one of Diana's former students. Their affair hadn't started by chance. It began at a parent-teacher conference, escalated through late-night texts, and deepened into something Dylan had never been told existed. But the most gutting detail wasn't the timeline, it was the lie. Hudson wrote that Diana told him Dylan was terminally ill, that their marriage was emotionally over, and that she was only staying until he passed for the sake of appearances. She'd painted herself a martyr in a twisted story of caregiving and quiet heartbreak. Dylan felt sick. The affair was one thing. Awful, humiliating, but this was theater. She hadn't just cheated. She'd rewritten reality to suit her selfish needs. Hudson claimed he never would have been involved had he known the truth. The man apologized deeply and genuinely. And for the first time, Dylan didn't feel rage. He felt clarity. Diana hadn't just broken his heart. She had destroyed the very truth of their life together. The sun was low and golden when Dylan pulled into the quiet cul-de-sac of Diana's childhood home. He wasn't there for closure. He was simply returning a few boxes, yearbooks, knickknacks, a photo album she might still care about. He rang the bell, expecting a silent exchange or perhaps a cold thank you. But the door swung open to reveal her mother, eyes red-rimmed, face pale with something between heartbreak and humiliation. For a moment, they just stared at each other, two people linked not by love, but by the debris Diana had left behind. Then, without a word, she stepped forward and embraced him. It was shaky, brief, but sincere. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I don't know who she became." That sentence landed heavier than any accusation. Dylan stood frozen as her voice cracked, not just from sorrow, but from disbelief. Her daughter wasn't raised this way. And yet, here they were, standing on a porch mourning a marriage that had become unrecognizable. As he placed the boxes inside the hallway, he noticed framed family photos still lining the walls. Diana's graduation, their wedding, laughter immortalized in glass. It stung, not because of what was lost, but because so much of it had never been real to her. As he drove away, Dylan realized he wasn't the only one grieving. Her mother, once proud of the woman Diana had become, was now reckoning with her own version of betrayal. The sadness ran deeper than just divorce. It was the death of trust across generations. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon when Dylan's phone buzzed with a voicemail from a number he didn't recognize. He almost ignored it. His days were still thick with paperwork, silence, and the dull ache of rebuilding. But something made him press play. The voice that followed stopped him cold. It was soft, young, and heartbreakingly sincere. "Hi, Miss Carter," the little girl said, hesitant, like she wasn't sure it was okay to call. "I just wanted to say I miss you. You always smiled when we did our morning questions. I hope you're okay. School feels weird without you." Dylan's hand trembled as he set the phone down, heart clenched in a way he hadn't expected. The voice wasn't accusing or judgmental. It wasn't wrapped in scandal or betrayal. It was just pure, innocent sadness from a child who had no idea of the storm swirling beneath the surface. And it hit him then, the ripple effect. Diana's choices hadn't only destroyed their marriage. They had touched lives that believed in her, students who looked up to her, little hearts that felt safe in her presence. The voicemail felt like a ghost from a past life. A reminder of the woman Diana used to be, or at least pretended to be. Dylan sat back, staring at the ceiling, the child's voice echoing softly in his mind. It was the cruelest kind of sadness. Not rage, not revenge, but innocence caught in the crossfire of grown-up lies. And that, more than anything, was hard to forgive. It was supposed to be just breakfast. A quick stop at the corner cafe near his new apartment before heading into another long day of work and legal errands. Dylan wasn't expecting anything unusual, just coffee, maybe eggs, something to dull the weight still sitting in his chest. But then came a warm voice, bright and familiar. "Back to your usual?" He looked up to see her, Mia, the waitress who used to serve him and Diana years ago, back when life still felt whole. She hadn't changed much, still that spark in her smile. Still remembering orders without writing them down. "Black coffee, cinnamon toast, no butter, right?" she grinned. Dylan blinked, surprised that someone remembered him, let alone something as small as a breakfast order. "You've got a good memory," he replied, a smile pulling at the corners of his mouth for the first time in what felt like ages. They chatted lightly while she poured his coffee, and for a few minutes, the world outside the cafe didn't exist. There were no lawyers, no court dates, no shattered vows. Just two people reconnecting over burnt toast and laughter. It wasn't flirtation. It was something gentler, something safer. A shared humanity in a world that had felt cold for far too long. As Dylan left the cafe, he realized something had shifted. The day felt lighter. Not fixed, not healed, but hopeful. And in the quiet glow of a simple morning, he felt it. Joy. Not loud or dramatic, but quietly knocking on the door of his heart again. When the news finally broke, it spread faster than Dylan ever expected. Diana Carter, once celebrated as a compassionate school counselor and trusted mentor, was now the subject of a quiet scandal whispered in teacher lounges and PTA meetings. Her dismissal wasn't splashed across headlines, but in their small town, word didn't need ink to travel. The school board had acted swiftly once Hudson's letter and the security footage were officially reviewed. But it wasn't just the administrative decision that hit Diana the hardest. It was the silence that followed. The very colleagues who used to laugh with her in the break room now avoided eye contact. Parents who once praised her guidance now questioned her values, asking aloud what kind of example she had set. Invitations dried up. Friendships frayed. Her social media went dark. And for someone like Diana, who had built her identity on approval, trust, and image, this was exile. Dylan didn't feel satisfaction. Watching her unravel felt more like watching a statue crumble. Once proud, polished, admired, now hollow and cracked from within. He remembered seeing her speak at school assemblies, her voice filled with warmth and conviction. That version of her was gone. If it had ever truly existed, the betrayal had reached beyond their home. She hadn't just betrayed a husband. She had let down an entire community that once believed in her. And as Dylan walked through town now, people greeted him with quiet nods, sympathy in their eyes. Not because he won, but because they knew he had survived. The lake was still that evening. The kind of quiet that feels earned. Dylan sat on a bench near the water, a paper cup of coffee in hand, and the last light of day softening the world around him. Beside him, Mia laughed gently at something he said. Nothing important, just a silly story from work. But the sound of her laughter felt like music in a life that had been silent for far too long. He didn't feel fireworks or dizzying romance. What he felt was peace. Steady, grounding peace. No lies. No second-guessing. Just a quiet moment shared with someone who expected nothing and offered everything in return. It was in that stillness Dylan realized something profound. He didn't need revenge to feel whole. He didn't need apologies or explanations or even closure. He had found something better. The calm that comes when you let go of the pain and choose yourself. As the sun dipped below the horizon and the world shifted into twilight, Dylan leaned back, exhaled, and smiled. Not for the past, but for everything still waiting ahead. It was finally truly over. And that felt like beginning. In today's world, where appearances often overshadow truth, this story reminds us to trust our instincts, protect our peace, and never ignore the quiet red flags. Relationships are built on honesty, not just affection. And when that trust is broken, it's okay to walk away. You don't owe anyone forgiveness if they've weaponized your love against you. Choose healing over revenge. And remember, Peace isn't found in proving your worth to someone who forgot it. It's in rediscovering your strength when everything falls apart. Always value the kind of love that doesn't need hiding, rehearsing, or excuses. You deserve nothing less.